Welcome back to MSNBC Live. So is there another mortgage crisis looming? Now, according to a report in the Wall Street Journal, officials are now worried about a surge in foreclosure of commercial properties that could carry mortgages sold by Wall Street bonds. With me now again to talk about the markets, Grover Norquist. Grover, we've obviously heard a lot of concerns on the part of individual homeowners. See a lot of foreclosures. We saw that in the second quarter, 6 million of the 52 million mortgages were late. Probably by now it's 10 to 12, so almost 20% are in some real trouble. Those folks are now saying that we're going to start to see the same problems among businesses. Do you think the government needs to step in more proactively to prevent or stem some of these foreclosures, either in the commercial or the residential sector?
Your question is, having thrown $700 billion in TARP subsidies to banks and then doing the so-called stimulus, $760 billion, the economy's gotten worse, unemployment's gotten worse, the GDP has fallen. Should we continue to do that which has led to more problems? No. Taking money from taxpayers.
Hey, Grover, I've never heard anyone rephrase my question so well. But you say no. You say there's too much bad water under the bridge, and therefore we should do what?
Well, you should back up. When you get in a hole, quit digging. The idea that a weak economy wants the government to go take money out of it from people who earned it in taxes or debt and hand it to the politically connected, that's the way other countries have driven themselves into bankruptcy. We should not have done any of it to start with, but when you're doing something stupid, step one is to stop.
Well, we're going to take a brief break. We have to take a brief break, but I want to come back and find out then what you think we should start. So if agreed that that's what we should stop, when we come back, I want to find out where you think we should start. Is there meaningful government action that should be taken, or are you literally saying no, take a complete step back? Let's get back to that question I asked Grover Norquist just before the break. With me again, Grover Norquist, leading conservative and president of Americans for Tax Reform. So, Grover, you're saying that we've seen $1 trillion+ spent trying to revive the economy. In your mind, we haven't seen enough progress. And so to my question about what we should do to help stem foreclosures, both on the residential side and the commercial side, you said first stop putting additional money out. But what would you do proactively, knowing that perhaps as many as a quarter of residential mortgages are in trouble, and who knows how many commercial mortgages could come crumbling down?
Two numbers. Over the last 43 years, when Congress was in session, the stock market went up on an annualized basis of 1.7%. In the last 43 years, when Congress was not in session, the stock market went up on an annualized basis of 17%. When Congress is in session, the stock market doesn't go up. When it's out of session, it goes up 10 times as much. So what they might want to do is take the next 2 months off. The good news for the economy has been Congress has been away, hasn't done anything damaging, and the turnaround that we may have seen in the stock market, not yet in unemployment, not yet in GDP, is that the president's plans to raise taxes on energy and make your gasoline and home heating more expensive, it looks like it's going to fail. So the economy does better. The government takeover of healthcare doesn't look like it's going to pass. That makes the economy better. The most important thing we can do is say to the American people, we're not going to raise taxes on energy, as cap and trade wants to do, by $800 billion.
But Grover, let me be clear. Yeah. As I'm hearing you, I'm not hearing any proactive solutions.
Go home. That's very proactive. That's the constructive thing that Congress can do.
So you're saying the constructive thing that Congress you're saying the constructive thing that Congress could do is go on vacation for 2 months, number one, and number two is to say that we won't we won't pass any additional taxes. That's what you're saying would be the solution to stem the foreclosure crisis, both on the residential and on the commercial side.
Both of those would help. If we could actually get Congress to agree, we should do another repatriation. 2004, 2005, Congress said companies that have money overseas, you can bring it back and not pay a prohibitive 35% tax. We brought $400 billion back into this country, 2004, 2005. We could do that again this year, bringing about $300, $400, $500 billion back to the United States if we made the change in the tax code temporarily, as we did one. That's a lot of money to help the economy and to save jobs. And what we ought to do also is abolish the capital gains tax.
Grover Norquist, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you again for joining us this morning.
Sure.
Tough